Hi everyone, I'm Holly from Hand Printed, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Jigsaw Linocut. Now a Jigsaw Linocut is a really great way of creating a relief print that just uses one block to get a print that is multiple colours. The way that we do that is to carve our block, split it into different parts, ink them up separately, put them back together and print all in one go. I'm going to show you how to carve and print your own Linocut in jigsaw style using a piece of easy carved lino. Now this dark grey stuff we have in the hand printed shop, we use it in the studio a lot, and I like to use this in my Jigsaw Linocut classes because it carves really easily, as the name would suggest, but it also cuts easily into separate parts. You can use other types of linos and vinyls and soft cut if you want to. I find this one the easiest to use for this, so that's what I'm going to use. So the first thing that we need to do is design and carve our piece of lino, and I'm going to show you how. You can see that as this block is dark, it's quite difficult to see a pencil line. You can see it when the light hits it. So I like to use just ordinary pencil to trace it out, and then I'm going to go over the design with a Sharpie. Think about chunks of colour. I'm going to have my leaves in one colour and we're going to have my flowers in another colour. So they're going to be distinct areas of colour. Now it's time to more accurately draw my design with a Sharpie. I'm going to be carving with my trusty wood carving tools. We have these at Hand Printed, we use them in the studio all the time. I love these. I'm also going to be using my file tools that I talked about in a previous video as well. I've got a 12 one and an 11 one, which is a really fine V and a really fine U. I'm going to start by going around the edges of my outer shape with this V tool. You'll find that with this lino, if you use the Easy Carve or the Soft Cut or any of the vinyls, that you can't do a snap off like you can with lino. So with lino you can go in and ping up and the piece breaks off. This isn't going to break off, so it's going to stretch. So all you need to do is just make sure that when you go in with your tool, you come out to finish off the line rather than ping up. It's just a tiny adjustment to make when using the different kinds of lino, but you'll get a feel for it. So now I've carved around all of the edges of my shape. I'm going to remove this background later on, so I've just gone around all of the edges. But for now, I'm going to go in and start carving in this detail. For that, I'm going to be using my file 11 one cutting tool. So here's my detail. I've carved lots of veins into the leaves and the detail in my flowers. I'm now going to go in and remove these areas in the middle, these sort of trapped islands of background. I'm going to carve those out with a U-gouge. I know that I want this background to disappear. I want this kind of flower to float in a white background, so it's not going to be a rectangular block. I'm going to carve a slightly wider channel with my U tool all around the outside, and then I'm going to cut off the excess with a scalpel. I've carved a nice wide channel around the edges of my whole design, and now I'm going to go in with a scalpel and free that design from its background, cut these big pieces off. I'm going to press not too firmly and go through a couple of times until I've broken through the back of my lino. So now my design is freed from its background. There might be areas later that I want to cut away if they're picking up too much ink. You can adapt it later, but for now that's absolutely fine. So the next thing I want to do is separate the areas that I want to print in a different colour. So similarly with the scalpel, go through a few times, being gentle with it. So So there we have my final pieces. I've got this leaf piece, this flower, and then this leaf piece and this flower. To make it easier to put them back together once we've inked them, you want them to slot almost up against and on top of one another like that, without you having to really press and work them in, because once that's inky we can't really touch it, we can only sort of guide and slide them together. Before we get our hands dirty, it's a good idea to make a registration sheet. So gather all your pieces and arrange them on a piece of paper, and then I'm going to get a pencil and draw around them. This could be rough. You could even, if you want to, draw around each individual shape like this, so you know where they're going to go. There's my 4 pieces and my registration sheet is ready. I'm now ready to ink up my pieces. I've got Schmincke ink in 2 colours. I've got it in ivory black and in copper. You can use any relief printing inks that you like. Calico will work really well, Speedball, anything you like. These are water-based. I've also got 2 rollers. I'm using these nice small ones because they fit nicely with the shapes of the pieces I've got. You'll need 1 per each colour that you're using. I'm only doing 2 colours with this, but you can do up to as many colours as you like. Okay, so I want my leaves to be black. I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit of black ink, roll it out, try to get a nice even layer of ink. You only ever need to roll out the width of your roller into a square like that. I'm going to take my first piece, ink it up with black, I love this colour. You can see that it's picking up a little bit on these edges, so if I were to go in and do another print I might have a look at those areas and see if I can't neat them up a tad. And my final flower in Delicious Copper. Now I've got my registration sheet. I'm going to arrange my pieces in their correct places. So you can already start to see how the 2 colours are going to work together. Try only to touch the edges. Now this is my tricky one to fit. This easy carve is a little flexible as well, which is good because it means that you can sort of bend it and manipulate it into place. Now make sure each of your shapes is lying flat. Okay, so now a piece of printer paper. I'm using one the same size as my background paper, so I'm just going to carefully rest it over the top, and then I can take my print. You can put this through a press if you like. I'm going to hand burnish. Just going to use the flat of my hand, and then I'm going to go in with a spoon. You can use a wooden spoon if you like, or a bamboo barren works really well with this. Now remember that these pieces are separate, so we want to take extra care to make sure that we don't slide them about. Here we go, here's my finished print. You can see some areas that I might want to go in and clean up a little bit, but I'm not too fussed. I kind of like the look of it. I love that copper ink, that's so beautiful. Please let us know if you use this technique. We would love to see what you get up to. I love this technique, I hope you do too, and we'd love to see what you make. Happy printing!